Welcome to Innovate, Disrupt, or Die, the podcast where innovation isn't just an ideal, it's a way of life. I'm your host and creator of the Innovate, Disrupt, or Die newsletter, Danny Nathan. Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Innovate, Disrupt, or Die, the podcast. This week, I have Neil Goodrich with me. Neil, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, and sort of how it relates to the world of innovation.
So I'm a unorthodox backstory. I have a criminal justice degree. I spent a couple years as a private investigator, then as a business analyst. I fell into a technology team, ended up running technology teams, and ultimately that turned into innovation. And
Okay.
so I've sort of just been this weird problem solver in different dimensions, in different ways and lives through my lives, and that's how I've ended up in innovation.
Very cool. Yeah, I was digging through your LinkedIn, and the collection of companies that are in your background is quite interesting. If I recall correctly, there's a furniture manufacturer and a plastic manufacturer, and now you're at a forensic
services. Yeah, forensic engineering. So they Sherlock Holmes what happened at a site for desk adjusters for insurance companies. So there was a huge explosion at your oil refinery. We send in fire investigator and a structural engineer, and those guys figure out what happened, what led to what.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
I'm envisioning all of the technology that might go into that. And of course, being sort of the nerdy technology person, my head immediately goes to like some dude scanning a wall that reveals cracks and everything. How far off am I? Is it as cool as I want it to be, having watched too many sci-fi movies?
It's not that cool. It depends on what you're doing. Sometimes, like fire investigators, those guys are just like old school, stomping around in ashes, looking for clues. It runs the gamut to like drones, right? Post-hurricane, nobody wants to walk on the roof because it's structurally unsound. So like you've got drone deployments. There are cameras that'll scan a room and like immediately render it in a 3D rendering, which is pretty cool.
All right, you're getting in there. I see that as sort of the sci-fi kind of like.
It's not all the sexy stuff every day. Sometimes,
Well, come on, no job is all the sexy stuff every day, right? I mean, that's just the realities. So how did you go from being an investigator to landing in IT and then eventually into like innovation? How did that unfold over the course of all these interesting companies that led you to where you are today?
Short answer is I had a couple of people who bet on me when there was really no reason on paper to bet on me. And so my current life is a function of a handful of decision makers. But as a private investigator, there's no playbook. There's no standardized thing, right? You get a file and they say, figure out if this guy's lying. And so you just start to figure out how to look at a problem, make a plan, break it into parts, try stuff, iterate. So this whole movement from goal to action plan and then the adjustment and the adaptability piece turned into like, I was a business analyst for a while. So I would talk to an end user and they would describe a problem. And I would be like, oh, I see what you do. Oh, like, what about if we did it like this? And I became the liaison between the technical team and the end users. And we were doing essentially product design, right?
Mm-hmm.
User-centric product design before there were words for any of that stuff. And then they just kept giving us more and more resources because we were doing really cool things. We were solving big problems. And so they're like, oh, well, you should take over the developers so that they're part of the same. Oh, you should take over and then one day I woke up when I was the IT director. And so the story didn't really ever change. The scope and scale of the story changed.
Gotcha.
And I would say in the last 5 years, being leader of the technology team, but they were non-standard technology teams. They were teams that were putting ideas on the table, not just receiving instructions from the business. So that happened too, but there was this magic symmetry of, okay, yes, sometimes there's some top-down priorities to enable strategic goals. Sometimes our team would say, hey, what about this? We've been out in the field with the plastic salespeople or the forensic engineers, and we saw this. And what if we did this thing with the digital product, right? And so that's how we got into the innovation space. It was through sort of, we were the best opportunity discoverers
Hmm.
trying to do product design, right?
Interesting. Okay, that kind of hints at the question that was floating around in my head. As you're talking about the product design efforts that you've been through, are those then mostly focused internally on things that I guess investigators might use in your current role, or what types of products, to the extent that you're ready, willing, and able to discuss, have you kind of helped to bring to life to serve that customer base?
I built two big platforms. One was for the salespeople at the plastics distributor,
Hmm.
internally focused. The other one was for the investigators, also internally focused. We had we built a customer portal at the last place. Our intent was, hey, somewhere there's a person at a petrochemical company who's deciding to sell to us, and that person has a boss. How do we make that person's job easier?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And I think
Hmm.
that's always been sort of the secret sauce, which was it was always about being in service to the user of the product. Right.
Yes.
And so it totally changed the flow and the pace of dialogues for that sales team. And so I think that's been the secret sauce, which is there's no ulterior motive. We're not trying to serve the organization. We're trying to truly serve the community of people who are going to use it. And the organization benefits as a byproduct,
Yes.
right? Which takes the right kind of organization and the right kind of leadership there. And like, that's not everybody's outlook. And
Neil, as you're talking, I'm curious. You know, you've described this transition from sort of investigation in the early days into IT and then into innovation. Where in the lineup of roles did that transition sort of become cemented? Like, when did you look around and say, you know what, I'm an innovation guy, I'm not the IT guy anymore?
man, I would love to say that those exist separately. So I spent my whole life at medium-sized companies. So
Okay.
100 million plus 25 person IT team, right? Which includes like the digital products folks, but also the help desk and the infrastructure.
Right.
And our worlds have my worlds, their worlds, our worlds have never really been cleanly divided. And
Okay.
so on any given day, you're trying to carve okay, this is a good idea for a new feature in the product. Is it innovation? Probably not innovation. It's probably like regular old product feature ad.
Right.
Like this thing over here is a really cool idea. Is that innovation? Is it a capital I innovation? Is it a lowercase innovation? Like what's innovation? And so it's this seamless border of, I tend to think of it as we do things that nobody necessarily asked us to do. We'll bring ideas forward.
Okay.
So we're suggesting and recommending our own kind of value creation separate from the business saying, please make me a thing that does this.
So, Neil, talk to me a little bit about the role of innovation within the organization. And by that, I mean, you know, you're in this sort of interesting spot where you're straddling the line between sort of traditional IT and forward facing innovation. Is innovation as a pursuit championed within the company? How much freedom are you given to go and sort of explore and bring back new weird ideas like, hey, what if we did this? How would it impact blank? And do you feel like you're sort of fighting for the right of way, or is it being handed to you?
So the company's never had anything more than an IT director prior to
Okay.
me in the seat 3 years ago. So they intentionally went out and said, we're going to make this role and we want them
Okay.
to do sort of value creation IT and we're going to call it innovation. And we had to sort of get there because we had to sort of evolve through just being IT. So we had
Hmm.
some work to do, but we did that. Um,
What was that process like, Neil?
so we had to establish all the turnkey value creation pieces that you think of IT, right? So all the service, all the recurring service stuff, all the help
Hmm.
desk stuff, right? We had recurring network outages. We had to fix those. And so we had to sort of get to net zero before anyone would let us
Got
start
it.
talking about. Nobody wants your crazy ideas if their email doesn't work on a Monday, right?
Okay. So you had to sort of pay down the technical debt
But
effectively.
we had to earn the right to come talk about nutty ideas, which we did.
Interesting. How long did that take?
18 months, 20
Okay.
months.
Yeah. So it was pretty in depth.
cool plug for the team. We got nominated for CIO of the year 2024. And when you fill that form out, you have to talk about all the things that the team did in the business, all the value creation. And so we got a chance to sort of document that. And then we won.
Oh, wow.
And so despite it saying CIO of the year, it really was an external validation of the team turning around or reinventing every dimension of the IT org, from the help desk to the infrastructure. Like, all the outages stopped. We delivered new features. And then we earned the right to, like,
Right.
we rolled out this mobile application for the investigators. And today, I think we have a pretty free-flowing dialogue between, the billing team said that if we automate this, it's going to save them this many hours. So, like, requests like that, requests that emerge from, like, the leader of the investigating organization who says, like, we're trying to achieve this strategic thing. So, like, that becomes a
Hmm.
project. There's this sort of seamless wall where, like, we can put stuff in there. I don't feel like we have to fight to be taken seriously,
That's great.
because I think our ideas come from a place that's grounded in reality. They resonate. When you describe the idea, they resonate because they come from a real place. That's been super cool to see the product team go out into the field
Nice.
and do those investigations. And when they come back, you can just see all the synapses.
Just see the
They're
gears
like, oh
grinding
yeah,
and the,
right,
yeah,
we could do this and we could do this, right? And so when the ideas are born from those kinds of
yeah,
efforts, they make sense. You don't have to fight.
yeah.
So I feel,
Interesting. So
again, very fortunate that we're in that space.
it sounds like it. And it sounds like, unlike what I hear from some other organizations, that your innovation efforts are championed from above and are by the internal customer base. As you're describing your product team going out on site with your investigators, I can immediately see where that would inspire, interesting ideas, interesting technology use cases. Just having the opportunity to sit back and watch an investigator, as you said, sort of poking through the ashes and, doing whatever it is they do, that I could see where things would come out of that would be really exciting to build.
If you go out there and you see this guy he has a separate standalone camera,
Okay.
it's because he takes 2,000 pictures in an afternoon, and the camera takes it in like 0.01 second, and your phone takes it in 5 seconds. But if you multiply that time duration times the 2,000
Right.
photos, and, like, all it takes is for you to see that in the real world, you're like, oh my gosh, we should stop trying to get guys to use their phone to take pictures. We need to develop some kind of a picture import thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden it changes the product. And how do you accelerate these guys' work? They've stomped around in a ruined building for 8 hours, and then they're supposed to go back to the hotel and, like, plug in their camera and upload their, like, we should make that better, right? So
Yeah.
that's the stuff that's happened. So it's been cool.
Interesting. Interesting. Neil, one of the things that I like to talk with folks about quite a bit is what I sort of call a culture of innovation. And in my mind, that is the organizational enablement of people to have and propose, weird ideas, off the wall solutions, whatever it is, without the fear of sort of personal repercussions. Talk to me a little bit about how the culture of innovation shapes up within your walls and what you do to sort of foster that culture to ensure that nobody feels like, they're a voice in the corner that doesn't have the right to speak up, or that when they do have a great idea, they know what the steps are to potentially bring it to life, or at least propose it as something to consider.
So I was really never supposed to be an IT leader. And so from the get-go, we were interviewing for curiosity and creativity. You're shopping for these traits, and when you're all done, you step back and you look at this weird collection of people with all kinds of non-standard backgrounds, and they're come in all shapes and sizes. And, like, I had a PhD in astrophysics. No, in astronomy. I've had a kindergarten teacher. I had a guy who was like a nationally ranked rugby player and had like 20, he'd broken all of his bones at different times. He was like the nicest guy. He was like a enablement guy. He would teach you how to use new features that came out. So, like, but the culture of the team was consistent. And in early stages, I had to be the last voice in the interview process because I knew I was shopping for those traits. And
Uh-huh.
when you get it, there's that critical mass moment where like they fired me from the interview process because the rest of those team members wanted to keep that vibe sacred, how it was. And it just so happens that those are the things that fuel innovation, where you're encouraged to be creative and put ideas on the table, and like no one's going to say like, oh, just do tickets, please stop offering new ideas,
Right.
because we explicitly told you in the interview process, this is our expectation. We want everybody to go out and build a network of relationships. We want you to be thinking about stuff like help desk sees a ton of
Yes.
scenarios. Like you guys are you guys are uniquely qualified to offer up ideas that no one else could offer up.
Yeah, the front line of customer service is one of the absolute best points for ideation.
Right. And like that's not a good or better or bad, worse or idea than anybody else's cool idea that just because they sit in a boardroom or because that
Right.
guy's title is a product or like doesn't matter. And so I think it starts with, for me, it's been people selection, which drives working environment and team culture, right? And like there's no magic fix to that. Slow and steady. And then the good news is once the stone is rolling, it's pretty
Mhm.
hard to stop, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I used to work at a place that sounds similar in terms of creative people from backgrounds of all sorts, and we used to refer to ourselves as sort of the box of broken toys. I totally get that.
It's consistent too. It's like been 3 organizations where we built an IT team that looks like a non-standard IT team. We hired him for a project management role. He had this real like vagabond background, multivariate, and he was so incredulous that we called him for this project manager job because everybody else turned him down. And the reason they turned him down was the reason we wanted him. I'm like, you can pivot, you can adapt, you can speak 3 different departmental languages. You've been a video editor, you've been a this thing, like you can talk to all of those people. Like that's the skill we want. And he was blown away.
I'd imagine that it helps people feel more at home and probably drives a little bit more longevity in terms of retaining talent and keeping people around for a little while.
I don't want to jinx it, but
I'll knock on wood for you.
I
How's that?
can't think of a team member that has left once we reach that stable, sort of healthy, where like the team is
Right.
picking team members.
Neil, talk to me a little bit about how it sounds like people at your organization have been particularly welcoming towards what you're describing bringing to the table. And as you've spent, as you said, 18, 20 months kind of paying down the technical debt around IT and then developing into a world of, as you said, kind of earning the right to propose weird ideas, oddball solutions, things like that. Um, how has that been accepted organizationally? And, are you finding now that people come to you and your team with weird problems that either they would have sat on before or tried to figure out themselves or just sort of said, well, I guess that's just the way this happens now?
100% yes to the last piece. Yes, we get way more visitors. We get way more people willing to pitch us about ideas. I had an investigator call me and self-disclose that he was running a LLM on his laptop. Like I was like, okay, super cool you called me. When we do stuff with AI, we're gonna call you. But those interactions are always, you have to tread very carefully because right, you don't want to say no. You don't want to send people away with the broken dreams.
Yeah,
Because
if you
then people
squash
stop
that
coming.
moment, yeah,
People stop coming. And so we work really hard. There's probably 3 or 4 contact points in the organization. All those people do bustling business compared to what they did right 18 months ago. Tons more departmental level leaders or individual practitioner folks coming with like, I do this thing every day and I think we could automate it if you blah, 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 blah.
nice.
And those aren't big capital I's, right? They're not moonshots. They're not
No,
innovation, but they represent a cultural change of
yes,
openness, and no one's going to make fun of me or make me feel silly or say no to my idea. So
right.
I see it happening from the bottom. and people see it just as progress and value, and they don't
Hmm.
really care if it's a feature or just regular incremental IT work or innovation. So the only person trying to carve that up, right, is us in this discussion trying to sort of make, but
Yeah,
I think to the end users, it's all just cool stuff that makes work easier.
yeah, absolutely. Neil, as these ideas are flowing in, do you all have specific frameworks that you use? Do you have prioritization lenses through which you evaluate the ideas? Like, how do you go about taking, a stack of ideas that are coming in from the organization and going, okay, this one's amazing. We need to do it tomorrow. This one's great. It should happen 2 quarters from now. And I don't know, this thing over here is total moonshot territory. We would love to do it, but it's going to take a little bit more consideration to get to the point where we can activate that.
We don't have any written frameworks. We look at sort of different kinds of ideas, large, medium, small, however you want to think about it, right? Stuff that's
Hmm.
going to take a long time, medium, bite size, and you try to build this portfolio where something always seems to be happening, right? So while you've got the one big long idea going for 3 months, you've got a couple of medium ideas, and then you've got some sprinkles, as they call them, in there, so that every couple of weeks somebody gets a thing, right?
Yep.
Oh, the field you wanted. Oh, here's the report you want. But the medium and big ideas are where you try to look at what's happening in the organization. What do we really need? What's a critical change? And we try to be strategic about choosing those, and then making sure that at the every whatever the cadence is, we revalidate them if they're going to be around for a while. So um I guess two parts to say: right idea at the right time, a lot of context based,
Hmm.
one, and two, we try to intentionally mix timing so that we don't go away for a long period of time. And so I think that's the two pieces of our approach.
Gotcha. Makes perfect sense. You nodded a moment ago, Neil, at sort of the big thing of today, which of course is AI. It sounds like you all are kind of considering what impact AI will have for you. Are you using AI today? And if so, how? And what do you think the future holds for it, for you all?
Good. That's a good refinement, because
Yes. No, I'm
I'm
not asking you to predict the future of
buzzkill.
AI.
I am a buzzkill at parties on AI. I go right to like the doom. So let's just talk about work and AI. Um, the we're part of the insurance industry. Inside the insurance space, the adjusters are leveraging it a ton because it does, right? If I'm a desk
Uh,
adjuster and I'm getting all these different kind of paperwork from different places, none of it's the same. And so like this idea that's reading it all and telling me and keeping track of it all, it's great. There's a lot of compliance for us.
yeah.
And when a engineer signs their name at the end of the report, which is what we produce, it says, "This is what I saw. This is my conclusion. This is what I believe." They're liable for every single word in that report. They can lose their licensing over it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so the industry is going lightly into you're like, yeah, but like the document generation piece is like the sweet spot. And you're like, yeah,
Sure. Right up until it
but like
hallucinates and
right up
throws
until it
something in there.
hallucinates, and then you're the guy in the court case on the stand. And
Yeah.
in our space, there's a lot of unknown future about
Hmm.
AI. Um, we're moving slowly, seeing what sort of rules and regulations, what's the zeitgeist. So like, here's a great, okay, the roof inspections. We could do roof inspections so much faster if we just use a drone, until you get on the stand in a contentious, high profile situation. And they say, "Oh, so you mean nobody ever went up on the roof?
Right.
Oh, you took the drone," which you think about that. You're like, what do you think's better? A human memory or a photograph? Like
Right.
logically, the drone should trump the human eyeball,
Right.
but it doesn't. So I think there's some AI iffiness given the space that we're in, and the
Interesting.
frequent legal implications that come after our cases, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me, as you're describing it, Neil, like the real question here isn't could or even how might AI prove advantageous, useful, or help limit time spent, but rather it's the CYA moment of, okay, we can do all of that with AI, but if somebody comes and asks a pointed question in a litigious setting, then you have to worry about all of the sort of nitpicky stuff that might come up, underneath it, as you've just described. So that's interesting. Uh, the other place that comes to mind is, you were describing the 2000 photos, for example, that an investigator might take. Like, and imagine that there might be opportunity for AI to play a role just in like cataloging, evaluating, and tagging those images in a way where it's not concluding anything, but it's rather just helping you find the things that you need within a set of 2000 images, for example.
Yeah, there's some tools out there in our space that are claiming to like sort of substitute some of the engineer's expertise. Like, what caused this
Oh,
crack
interesting.
in the wall? Which seems like very dangerous, right? That's the essence of what they're trying to protect against,
Right.
right? Like, I don't want, all it takes is one hallucination. So I think similarly, anytime that you're counting on it to make an opinion
Yeah.
gets dicey for us. Now, can I have you go back through 25 years of reports and tell me what our experts concluded about similar situations? Okay, that's reporting the news. That's summarizing. Like, there's fewer risks there. So I think that's been our bent, is how can we use it to read, summarize, compile, accelerate those kinds of activities rather than have it opine or
Yeah.
create.
Yeah, if you're not putting it in a decision-making role, then it sounds like it's probably safer given the concerns around the industry and
Right.
so on. Interesting.
Or find me the picture that I took of good.
Right,
Like, that's cool,
right.
right? No risk there. But again, I say that because I that's all in the internal chatbot application, right? The assistant.
Okay. When you say internal chatbot, can you talk to me at all about what the use case for that is? And again, please, nothing
Yeah,
proprietary. I
yeah.
mean, if you're,
I think it is around, right, interacting with the data history that we already have,
okay.
finding me stuff, right? Because I've got 2000 photos. Maybe I've been working here 10 years, so I have these reports and I'm like, I know I worked a case that was similar, right? So I think about the time spent finding and collating and looking
Yeah.
for, like, to me, that all goes away. Have we ever seen this kind of a problem before? Oh yeah, here's the three reports. Like,
Here's the case report from it, or
so like
yeah.
I could have found those, but I wouldn't have had to call 19 other guys in my department and like, did you ever look a file in the generator? Like, so I think that's the application that is safest and probably, so in our space, the experts, the engineers, there's only so many of those folks in the US. And so retaining them, especially if they're well known in the insurance space, they have their own sort of loyalty. And like when they leave, the adjusters that use them go with them. And
Oh,
so
wow.
engineer and expert retention directly ties to sort of customers and revenue. And so one of our mandates is, how do we make the work life of engineers and experts better so it's more sustainable, so they feel like they have the best possible work experience, right? Because we can compete on talent retention, talent acquisition,
Yeah.
which means if I can go scoop the biggest, slickest civil structural engineer in the marketplace and he'll come to us, well, all of his adjusters, all the adjusters that use him will come to us, right? So it's unique that we're tied to sort of a revenue lever through
Hmm.
through employee experience.
That's really interesting. I never would have I never would have envisioned sort of the celebrity status of civil engineers, for example. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Interesting. So then I assume you all are beginning to explore the opportunities to make their lives better, give them tools that would entice them, I suppose, to come in and work with you all.
Yeah, and that's how we ended up focusing from a digital product where we did, right? We went after a mobile tool for those guys in the field so that they didn't have to go back to their hotel and fire up their laptop,
Yeah.
VPN in, and log into the old legacy system, and we're like, it's on live, right? Like, so they can do time entry, they can do the early pieces of the project lifestyle, the investigation milestones right when they do them, right? And so we get to bundle that with a lot of context stuff and automation. Hey, it looks like you did this. Do you want us to do this for you?
Yeah.
right? Which sounds turnkey, but when applied for those guys, right, that means that I can not go home and do that, which means like
Right.
I'm a lot happier, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a direct relationship between driving products that people love to use and that people are like, man, this is awesome, right?
Well, and you get an immediate view of the impact on the overall business as well. I mean, as you pointed out, employee retention, for example, when it's tied directly to the tools that you all are creating, becomes a KPI that you can track against, people want to stay here because we, as you said, we make their lives easier, we give them more time at home, blah, blah, blah. So
Yep. Yeah, it's
interesting.
cool.
Very cool. Neil, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you're dying to share? Anything that would sort of tie a bow around the conversation here?
Um, yeah, like so I would turn that around because I think it's out, and which is to say, how did you end up in the space? How did you end up in the podcast chair? And does the podcast chair mean is there innovation happening elsewhere? Like, how are you
Yes.
connected to the innovation space?
So my other gig is running a company called Apollo 21 that is an innovation and technology product design studio where we work with companies of all different sorts to help them establish and articulate an innovation strategy, understand the operational and cultural impacts of what it means to say we are going to commit to innovation. And then we bring that to life by helping our clients usually build some sort of new venture or digital product that either they will use internally to help streamline operations and manage workflows, or that they will sell to their customers. And so for me, that kind of scratches the innovation itch and the need to be building something.
Okay, so you did spark another question for me, which
Yeah,
is,
please.
do you feel like innovation, the term, is the new digital transformation? What's your definition? And like, do you let clients shape their own definition when they bring you in? Do you like, no, you're not doing innovation. I don't know what you're doing, but like that's not it, and we don't want anything to do with you guys.
There's a lot to unpack in that question. So I don't necessarily equate it directly to digital transformation, but I think people do tend to use the two interchangeably a little bit. And I think that part of that comes out of what we're seeing in terms of how companies operationalize technology today. And so, to me, digital transformation is very focused on how do we operationalize technology in a way that will be useful for us as an organization so that we can operate better. From my view, innovation is almost coming back around because as technology has become so ingrained, the idea that we need a digital transformation, for example, is becoming less necessary. The number of companies that have not digitally transformed themselves is growing increasingly smaller because new companies are all digitally enabled and the old ones that wanted to be have executed their transformation or tried in whatever form that means for them. I think that innovation is kind of coming back around as, well, we've transformed ourselves digitally, so what do we do now? I know, we innovate. And it's becoming kind of the refiller word for companies that no longer need to think about transformation. And I think that it has become muddy for that reason. So how you define innovation, frankly, is part of why I love having podcast conversations because it is so different to so many different people. And so hearing over and over again, what does innovation mean to you? How does your organization frame innovation? To me is part of what's super interesting because it helps cement the idea that there is this huge breadth of meaning behind that one simple word. And as far as defining it on behalf of our clients, that's something that I try to be somewhat careful about for exactly that reason. Because while I certainly have ingrained beliefs about what is or may not be innovation, I try to be careful not to demean somebody who is in an innovation role by telling them that they're not innovating or that they're not being innovative. And I mean, look, I have to be frank, we are a client services organization, and walking into your client's office and saying, nah, y'all are stupid,
Right.
isn't always the best way to kind of ingratiate yourself. And so I try to be strategic about telling my clients that perhaps they could be innovating in different ways. And I'll kind of frame it that way.
So I, it depends on where you are and what the
Yeah.
context is, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because what it means to somebody else is so grounded in their situation, their organization, the goals that they have, the business that they're trying to contribute to, that it's really difficult to say to somebody, oh, that's not innovative, because
Right.
it's so contextual.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. If someone has never had that thing before and you bring it to them, it doesn't really matter if the rest of the world has had it, right? It doesn't diminish the joy like this,
yes,
that, right? Like that was the juice for me.
yes,
Like this is what I want to do every day, the rest of my life. I want to
yes,
build environments where like we just turn stuff out that delight people like that.
yes. It
Yeah.
is why we do it.
That's the closing conversation right there, man. That's why we do it. Why we get up and we do it.
I think on that note, we're going to end on a high. So, Neil, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. It has been really interesting to learn about your views on innovation and how you're bringing it to bear within your organization and how you went from investigator to innovator. I love that story. That's fantastic.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in to Innovate, Disrupt, or Die, the podcast. Join us again for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe at innovatedisruptordie.com. That's all, folks.